Dust rose like angry ghosts over the tiny village of Obinde as the sun pulled its first orange ribbon across the sky. Ibrahim Traoré could taste the sand on her lips while she pushed a narrow fishing boat away from the riverbank. In the fields behind her, pickup trucks screeched to a halt. Strange men in black masks jumped down, rifles shining like cold water. Inside the boat, 7-year-old Aminata squeezed her little brother's hand. "Mama, the bad people are here," she whispered. At that same second the village bell, used only for fires, clanged 3 sharp times. Farmers dropped hoes, mothers snatched babies, grandfathers lifted rusty hunting guns. The whole village, people who had never met the president's family, rose like a single wall between the children and the mercenaries. A wild storm of sound exploded. Pots of boiling millet flew from cooking fires. Women yelled war songs older than the country itself. Men formed a human chain across the dusty street. Bullets cracked over the mud brick roofs, but the villagers held. Jamila shoved the boat harder, water slapped her ankles. Farther down the river dozens of other boats set off too, fishermen, students, even a blind drummer guided by his grandson, all sweeping forward to guard the narrow water like living shields. Overhead, the beat of helicopter blades rolled across the sky. Were those friendly colors or more enemies? Jamila could not tell, her heart banged so loudly it drowned the rotors. Still she pushed, praying the wooden hull would float before the masked men reached the shore. If this moment grips your heart, take one short breath and tap the like button, it helps more people hear this story of courage. The bow finally broke free of mud and slid into deeper water. Jamila leapt inside, grabbing the oar. Then a sudden roar shook the air, and every eye, villager, child, gunman, tilted upward. 3 helicopters skimmed the treetops, their wind churning the river into silver claws. But whose flag fluttered on their tails? Friendly green. Hungry red. Nobody on the ground could see clearly, and in that shivering pause the cliff of fate stood tall, waiting to choose its side. 48 hours earlier, inside the marble halls of Burkina Faso's presidential palace, an old clock rang twice, then struck 2:47 a.m. The corridors lay as quiet as a sleeping library until hurried boots slapped the floor. Colonel Ousmane Kabo burst through the office door without knocking. His uniform was crumpled, his face pale as paper. In shaking hands he carried a file stamped in thick red letters, code red. "Mr. President," he breathed, "they are coming for your family." Ibrahim Traoré, soldier, farmer's son, now one of Africa's youngest leaders, stood so fast his chair skidded. Colonel Kabo spread photos on the desk, Jamila at the market, Aminata skipping rope at school, 5-year-old Sankara wobbling on his small bicycle. "Foreign mercenaries," Kabo said. 3 months of surveillance. Operation name, Broken Crown. They won't kill you, they'll kidnap them and trade their lives for your resignation. Ibrahim's fist tightened until his knuckles stung. When? Intercept says 48 hours, maybe less. And, the colonel swallowed. There is an inside leak. Someone close to the family feeds them schedules. Outside, Ouagadougou's city lights shone calm and trusting, unaware of the shadow now stretching over the first family. Inside, the president felt the weight of 2 worlds, a nation on his shoulders and his children in his heart. Tell us in the comments where you're listening from. Every voice reminds us why stories like this matter. At dawn he climbed the quiet stairs to the family quarters. Jamila was tucking her blue and gold head wrap, ready for an ordinary day. Her smile almost broke him. He sat beside her on the bed and told everything, the photos, the deadline, the traitor. "Tonight you and the kids must vanish," he said. "I will stay. If I run, they know we found out. I must act normal while you hide." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I can't leave you, Ibrahim." "You must," he answered, voice half command, half plea. "If anything happens to you, I lose my soul." Little footsteps pattered, Aminata bounded in, school uniform crooked. "Papa, you promised to drive me." Behind her, sleepy Sankara rubbed his eyes. Ibrahim gathered them close. The smell of soap and warm blankets filled his lungs. "We're going on a secret adventure," he whispered. "Be brave, and remember Papa loves you more than all the stars." That night, Operation Family Shield began. At 8, Colonel Cabo arrived with a routine briefing. Hidden inside the papers were new names, new birthdays, even new handwriting for Jamila and the kids. She swapped her elegant dress for a plain cotton wrapper, pinned on a short wig, and painted gentle wrinkles across her smooth face. Aminata's long braids tucked under a bright scarf, Sankara's shiny shoes were scuffed with sand. By 10:30, most of the capital slept. 3 black SUVs with flashing lights roared out the main gate, a presidential convoy decoy holding nothing but empty seats. Deep beneath the palace, Ibrahim led his family through a narrow tunnel lit by lonely bulbs. The concrete walls dripped cold water, echoes followed every step. Sankara clutched his father's fingers. "Papa, is this real hide and seek?" "Yes," Ibrahim said softly. "And you're winning." The tunnel opened into the back room of an old tailor shop owned by Amadou Sankara, a cousin and former comrade. "Roads are clear," Amadou whispered. A dented public minibus waited in the alley, its paint scratched, its tires mismatched, the perfect disguise. Jamila climbed aboard first, then the children. Ibrahim kissed each small forehead, trying to memorize their warmth. "Be stars for Mama," he said. "Shine while I'm away." The engine coughed, and the bus rattled into darkness, swallowing everything he loved. Ibrahim stood in the silent alley, moonlight cutting his face, heart hollow yet burning. Subscribe and share if you believe the time for Africa to rise is now. Every click is another light against the shadows of fear. Back inside the palace, the president straightened his jacket, fixed his tie, and walked toward his office as though nothing had changed. Yet in that quiet corridor a vow marched beside him: whoever dared hunt his family would learn what happens when the hunted turns and bares its claws. And somewhere miles away, closer every minute, the masked mercenaries checked their weapons and followed the whispers of a traitor, sure their prey had no wings to fly. The village of Abinda was not marked on most foreign maps, yet every child there knew the river like their own bloodline. Hidden deep in the northern plains, it was the last safe crossing before the borderlands. That's where the old paths twist into dry canyons, and trust must be carried like water, carefully, and only in shared hands. As the sun rose red over the thorn trees, the bus carrying Jamila and the children coughed to a halt behind a crumbling wall of a half-abandoned granary. Out stepped Amadou, hand on his pistol, eyes sweeping every rooftop. Then came Jamila, head bowed beneath a faded scarf, followed by Aminata and Sankara, their eyes wide but brave. They had traveled all night through dusty back roads, changed vehicles twice, and now faced the hardest part, waiting. In that dry quiet, Jamila wiped her son's brow. He leaned into her, whispering, "When can we go home?" She didn't know what to say, so she kissed his cheek instead. "Soon," she said softly. "Papa is finishing something important." But in her heart, she didn't know if they'd ever see him again. A soft knock came from the edge of the wall. A girl with quick eyes and a bow on her back stepped forward. "My name is Awa," she said. "Your next guide. Let's move before the drones wake up." They followed her through dry millet fields, crawling under broken fences, ducking past abandoned markets. At one point they crossed paths with a group of nomads whose camels stared at the children like spirits. Everyone was watching everyone. In these lands, betrayal often wore a familiar face. Still, step by step, they reached the riverbank. The boats waited, flat-bottomed, old, but sturdy. Children of the river knew how to glide without a sound. Villagers gathered, forming a quiet circle around Jamila. One woman placed a cloth bundle of roasted maize into her arms. Another slipped her a slingshot with smooth stones. For the girl, she said, nodding toward Aminata. It's how our mothers fought too. If this message speaks to your heart, the narrator's voice urges, help others find it. A simple like can carry it far. Back in the capital, however, the storm was swelling. Inside the palace, Ibrahim stood at the head of a long table, facing 12 senior officers. His voice was steady, but every syllable was a hammer. There has been a breach. My family is under attack. And I know, his eyes swept the room, that one of you opened the gate. No one moved. No one breathed. Colonel Kabor stepped forward and placed a recorder on the table. He pressed play. A voice filled the room, calm, professional, unmistakable. It listed the children's school times, Jamila's weekly schedule, even her preferred route to market. As the tape clicked to a stop, silence returned. Lieutenant Suleiman, Ibrahim said quietly. Explain. The man's hands trembled. I didn't know. I thought it was just for intel. Intel. Ibrahim's voice cracked, not with anger but with grief. You sold them like cattle. Without raising his voice, Ibrahim gave the order. Arrest him. And broadcast this treason, word for word, to the people. Minutes later, every radio in Burkina Faso crackled to life. This is President Ibrahim Traoré. One of our own tried to sell our family, and by extension our future, to foreign invaders. Let the world know, Burkina Faso does not kneel. We fight with truth, with courage, and with the love of our people. In that moment, from cities to farms, young people tapped their screens. Students raised fists. Mothers wept in kitchens. Even elders who had never trusted politics leaned closer to the radios. This wasn't just news, it was war declared with dignity. Tell us in the comments, where were you when you first heard this broadcast? Let your story join ours. But time was running short. The mercenaries, now furious, had switched tactics. No longer sneaking, they moved like a swarm. Armed with thermal drones and satellite scans, they swept villages, interrogated farmers, even threatened local chiefs. Their orders were simple: find the children. What they didn't expect was what came next. In Abinda, as the boats loaded, Awa gave Jamila a walkie-talkie. If anything happens, follow the sun west. There's a safe house in Dori. Jamila nodded, heart pounding. Suddenly, a roar shook the earth. 3 black trucks burst through the trees, bullets splattering the water. Children screamed. A man dove in front of Jamila and was struck down, his last breath a prayer. Mama! Aminata shouted. Into the boat! Jamila cried. She grabbed the oar as more villagers rushed from behind houses. Fishermen threw nets at the trucks, blinding windshields. Girls launched rocks. Grandmothers banged metal spoons like wood drums. It was not an army, but it was enough. A bullet whizzed past Sankara's head. Aminata threw her body over him. Jamila paddled furiously, tears and sweat mixing on her cheeks. Then, from above, a low hum. Helicopters. The villagers froze, unsure. Would it be France? Wagner? An African ally? Or death from the sky? One chopper hovered lower. Painted boldly on its underbelly, green, red, and gold. The Burkinabe flag. A loudspeaker thundered. Civilians, stay down. Hostiles will be neutralized. The ground erupted. Precision shots tore through the mercenaries' ranks. The trucks exploded in smoke and sparks. The crowd screamed, not in fear, but triumph. As the last enemy fell, the helicopter circled and one lowered a rope ladder. A soldier leaned out, mask pulled down to reveal a face Jamila recognized. It was Yakuba, Ibrahim's old friend from the early resistance days. "We came for you," he shouted. The children were pulled up first. Jamila climbed last, breathless, heart full of fire. From the air, she looked down at the village of strangers who had become family. She whispered, "Thank you. If you believe in people's power, share this moment. Let the world know what unity looks like." As they flew west, toward the red hills of Dori, one truth became clear. This wasn't just a rescue. This was a message. A line drawn in blood and sky. And far below, in a tent of smoke and heat, one wounded mercenary whispered into a radio, "We failed. The family escaped." The voice on the other end was calm and cold. "Then you better disappear. Because now, he's coming for us." Inside the war room of the presidential palace, the lights were dim but every face glowed with purpose. Ibrahim Traoré stood over a large paper map taped to the table. Thin red lines showed the enemy's escape tunnels, blue pins marked his soldiers in waiting. A single black X sat on an empty warehouse outside Ouagadougou, the mercenary nest. "Our family is safe in the air," he told his team, voice low and calm. "Now we clip the wings of those who chase them." Colonel Cabo nodded. "Strike teams are ready. We move at moonrise." Far above the city, Jamila's helicopter beat against the hot wind. She held her children close, still shaking from the river fight. Yakuba, the rescue pilot, spoke through the headset. "Madam, the president asked me to say he is proud of your strength." Jamila closed her eyes. She pictured Ibrahim alone in the palace, carrying both a country and a broken heart. "Tell him," she whispered back, "we are coming home, and we are bringing all the love of the villagers with us." If you feel the bravery of these families, tap the like button. Small actions join great ones. The helicopter banked south toward a hidden military base. As soon as the skids touched earth, doctors hustled Aminata and Sankara inside for checks. Jamila stepped onto the dusty ground, breathing deep. Safe, but only for the moment. She turned to watch the night sky. Somewhere out there, bullets and courage were already meeting. Moonrise. 3 silent trucks rolled along a dirt road toward the warehouse. Engines off, soldiers pushed the last 50 meters by hand. Owls watched from broken windows. Inside, mercenaries counted money and cleaned rifles, thinking the night belonged to them. Ibrahim rode in the first truck. He had shared his formal suit for his old combat jacket, worn at the cuffs, familiar as skin. "No loud glory," he whispered to his men. "We enter, we disarm, we show them Burkina Faso's true flag." A flashbang cracked the darkness. Doors burst inward. Soldiers flooded every room, beams of white light slicing through dust. The mercenaries reached for guns, too late. Zip ties clicked. Bodies hit the floor. Not one shot fired. In the center office, a tall foreigner sat at a desk, eyes hard. Ibrahim stepped in. "You thought my children were pawns," the president said. "But pawns grow teeth when a nation stands behind them." The man smirked. "Cut one head, another will rise. Your land is rich, President. We will be back." Ibrahim leaned closer, calm as stone. "Then we will rise again, and again, and again. Because our power is not oil or gold. Our power is people who love each other more than fear." He signaled. Soldiers led the men away. Outside, the sun's first thin light scraped the horizon. The fight for his family was over, the fight for his country would never sleep. Tell us in the comments, what does real strength look like where you live? Let the world learn from your community. At the base hospital, Jamila sat on a cot between the children, watching dawn paint the walls pale pink. Suddenly boots pounded the hallway. The door swung wide. There stood Ibrahim, dusty, tired, whole. Aminata screamed with joy and jumped into his arms. Sankara wrapped both small hands around his father's neck. Jamila rose slowly, tears already falling. Ibrahim crossed the room in 2 long steps and gathered her in, children and all, one trembling knot of family. "We are here," Jamila sobbed. "We are together." Ibrahim kissed her forehead. "And free," he added, voice thick. "Free because hundreds of hearts shielded us." Doctors slipped out, giving them silence. For long minutes no one spoke. Wind rattled the canvas roof, as gentle as a lullaby. The world outside could wait. If this reunion touches you, share the story. Each share is a light against the shadows of greed and fear. Weeks passed. Trials began. Radios buzzed with the names of foreign men found guilty of plotting to steal a nation's voice. But louder than the trials were the songs rising from villages. Children sang of the river fight. Market women sold cloth stamped with pictures of boats and bright helicopters. Elders told grand stories by firelight about the night ordinary hands beat back darkness. 6 months later, Ouagadougou's main boulevard filled with people wearing white. The palace gates opened wide. Ibrahim and Jamila walked side by side onto a high platform. Behind them stood Colonel Kabo, Awa the young archer, Yakuba the pilot, Chief Umaru from Abinda, and dozens of villagers who had thrown stones, nets, and even cooking pots to shield 2 small children. Ibrahim faced the sea of faces. His voice carried without a microphone, as if the wind itself wanted to listen. "My title is President," he said, "but tonight I speak as a father whose children were kept safe by strangers. Some of you bled for us. All of you stood tall. You showed the planet what our flag truly means. We do not bow to foreign chains, we link arms instead." He turned to Chief Umaru and placed a medal on the old man's chest. The crowd roared. He pinned another on Ewa, who blushed but gripped her bow tighter. He knelt for 2 fisherwomen who had rowed through gunfire, and laughter rippled when the President of the Republic called them our Navy. Finally he lifted Aminata and Sankara so the people could see the children they had saved. The siblings waved shyly, then pressed their palms together in thanks. Cheers rolled like thunder across the boulevard. Jamila stepped forward. "I was afraid that night," she admitted, "but your songs turned my fear into iron." She held up the old slingshot the village woman had given Aminata. "Simple tools, simple hearts, that is our shield." Subscribe if you believe a united Africa can shape its own story. Each subscription tells the algorithms our voices are worth hearing. Night settled, warm and wide. Street lights blinked on, but the biggest glow came from faces. People danced in circles, drums echoed off the palace walls. No one wanted to leave, because leaving would mean waking up and discovering it had just been a dream. Yet it was no dream. It was history, bright, living history. And somewhere beyond the city, under jealous eyes, others planned new plots. But they would remember the lesson of the river: a family guarded by a nation is never alone, and a nation held by its people is a fortress no outsider can breach. Ibrahim looked up at the stars, sharp white seeds in a black sky, and whispered the promise his mother once told him: "If we stand for each other, even the night must kneel." And the stars, ancient and silent, seemed to nod in steady agreement. Thank you for staying until the end of this journey. If the story stirred hope in you, pass it on. Hope multiplies when shared, and Africa's next chapter is ours to write, together.